every year I try and write an introduction, and a little straw man appears and says, "Why do you keep having Bill Weiland finish the first day of this event?" And every year I think to myself, "Shut up, little straw man, you aren't even real. You're an idea representing a false argument, and if you were at Burning Man, you wouldn't even make it through the day that they burn that big wooden man. You're just a straw man. Go to hell." Even more, I realize that we all have a vested interest in learning from Bill because he sits at the junction of fortune teller and enabler for so many brands and retailers out there. And his insights into trends are informed by an incredible amount of data, an all-star, highly attentive staff, and a remarkable gut instinct. It's these things together that have helped him pick winners both at retail and in investing, and have helped him ensure that they're going to maximize their potential. He's here to talk about how he picks the winners for representation and for funding. Please welcome the founder of Presence Marketing, Bill Weiland.
Thanks, Jeff. Appreciate it. Thank you. Jeff, one thing. Hello, everybody. My name is Bill Weiland. I'm the founder, president, and CEO of Presence Marketing. I have been in the industry for 40 years, running presence marketing for the better part of 30 years. I'm also a general partner in the fund Bigger. We are typically writing $3 to $5 million checks, sometimes for pre-revenue companies, oftentimes for brands that have established a several $1 million revenue base. Today, we are going to talk about how we select beverage brands. And this would include, in our representation model, Presence Marketing Dynamic Presence represents a couple of hundred brands. We look at 100 brands on about an 8-week cycle, and we decide who deserves a seat at the table for further exploration. It also gives us tremendous deal flow for our fund, and we have several ways that we invest in those funds. I mentioned Bigger, of which I am a general partner. We also have an in-house fund called Omnipresence, which is a swap service for equity, and that's also a profit-sharing vehicle for all of our employees. And then I write personal checks as well. So I'm a lifetime learner, and as Tracy Miedema put it best, brand selection is actually a craft and not a science. My family prevented me from shopping at grocery stores about 10 years ago because I would be gone for half a day. I consider the retail environment my laboratory. And what have we here? Oh my God, it looks like I've got a sword and I know how to use it. Here's a shot from our bar in our home, affectionately termed the Bellagio. No big deal, just a top 50 quality bar in the world. We make our own bitters. We do alcoholic infusions. We start with organic citrus. We've got a carefully curated 500-bottle collection. And we are deadly serious about the art. Oh, look at that. I just opened a bottle of champagne with that sword. I think then I was pouring it into a flute with organic ruby red grapefruit and vintage Aperol, but I can't be sure. But information that hones the craft of brand selection is everywhere. I am a student of the game. If you think I'm looking deep into your soul when our eyes lock, you are absolutely correct. I pay attention to everything. I listen to what people say. I observe how they act. My good friend Elliot Bagoon says a big part of my secret is I'm very empathetic. I am aware of people's needs, and I like to deliver solutions. Here's an example of the Bitter Bar in not New York City, which has another bar called the Bitter Bar, which is absolutely smashing. This is in Boulder, Colorado. And you could see this trend coming. You can feel it. Because if you understand that you travel anywhere in the world and you eat a traditional meal, you get a balance of 5 tastes. Sweet, salty, savory, which is umami, sour, and bitter. Bitter is the 5th taste. It's the most prominent taste. Recent research indicates that bitter plants, of which there are scores of them, have not only a pronounced role in increasing appetite and improving digestion, we've known that for years, but more recently we've discovered that they also play a pronounced role in blood sugar regulation and immune health. It is only a matter of time till people stop referring to bitter as acrid or unpleasant and recognize bitters as a health-giving, provocative taste. We are going to craft that narrative and drive it home very carefully through great marketing and high-quality retail product offerings. I suggest you pay attention to high-quality publications. You'll start to notice things that become things are different. The way the information is presented, the rapid nature at which it comes from you, and very important, the thesis surrounding it is applicable to modern society. When people called me 4 years ago and said, Bill, crickets are the next sushi, I said, really? I'll call crickets are the next bug. Do you know when crickets will sell in high velocity in US supermarkets? Because I do. Never. Really, unless we run out of chickens, cows, and oh, by the way, beans and nuts. There's no story there. Insects are an important part of the food chain. They are only relevant in cultures where at some point they had a difficult time accruing proper calories, much less protein. So I was going to launch my cricket smoothie 4 years ago, and then I just pulled out at the last minute. So look at Good Housekeeping, keto diet for beginners. Do you realize this is an entire issue devoted to keto, 75 recipes? I could hire a team of 10, and I could not explain keto better than they do in the first 20 pages of this magazine. Look at the quality of the books coming out on keto. Spoiler alert, we're going to talk keto later in the presentation. Hemp and CBD oil, no surprise there. But if you were paying attention the last several years, you knew this was coming. Same would be true of collagen. We jumped on collagen nearly 5 years ago. And what you'll notice when a thing becomes a thing, and I'm not talking about a passing fancy, like a new flavor like dragon fruit. I'm saying when a thing starts to become a reliable part of emerging commerce, and you look back on it, there's always a reason why. People are always quick to say, hey, let's put the product out there, we'll let the consumer decide. Wouldn't it be fun if you had a great idea what decisions those consumers were going to make? The aforementioned retail landscape, I do sneak out on occasion, I still get there. Because, just imagine this. What you're looking at, you're observing price points. You're looking at how much space that retailer is given to any specific product. You're noticing that, holy crap, people aren't just making a decision now, do I want this protein beverage or this protein beverage? There are innumerable choices for refreshment and function. There is a vast sea of competition that is hardly even tangentially related to something you might be deciding you're going to launch into the market. So it is a careful pursuit. I study when I go to the store. I look. I was hanging out in these little bodegas in and around Hell's Kitchen, talking to shop owners, asking questions, buying stuff, and observing products that cross over into those markets, good indicators that they've got a strong wind at their back and are likely going to show up at high velocity in US supermarkets and natural food stores. Also, when you travel, you start to pay attention to cultural differences and things that resonate. They don't always cross over to become a big deal in the US, but I found it interesting when I was in Seoul, South Korea last August, and at Starbucks, they had 16 ounces of calamansi juice, Filipino citrus. I thought, that's interesting, And I walk out the door, and the spa next door had calamansi facials. And I'm like, all right, come on, is Arnold here? Is Arnold from Mansi here? He's put these shopkeepers up to it. But really, I wouldn't say 100% certainly that calamansi is going to be a big deal. But when you see indications like this, you imagine the market is going to develop in the United States. Something like celery juice. No question, celery juice is great, right? You can make the argument, you eat the whole celery, you get the fiber, that's fair. But drinking celery juice, you kind of reset your gut. You get all kinds of polyphenols, all these great acids, vitamin A, vitamin K, lots of minerals. I think it's great. Commercializing that success, that's a little bit tougher. Line extensions for someone like Suja, no-brainer. Are you going to build a substantial business, kind of like watermelon water or coconut water? I'm not sure there's enough there for that. Cheese tea. Okay, I look at that product. I've never tried it. Okay, I'll tell you guys this. A hard product to commercialize. Like trying to picture that in a retail vessel, it's difficult for me. But if you ask me if cheese tea is going to be a thing, I'm like, are you kidding me? Take a look at that picture. Who doesn't want fluffy cream cheese whipped into their tea? Of course it's going to be a thing. Come into your neighborhood tea shop sometime soon. I will predict cheese tea is going to be a thing. Jeff, I don't know what you're laughing at. All right, and then influencers. Influencers are not only important if you're an investor and you're teaming up, if you're a brand and you're teaming up, but even if you're just perusing the marketplace and you're trying to find out what is relevant today and what's likely to be relevant a year down the road, 5 years down the road. I like to say I can relate to ages 2 to 102, but I typically don't say that because I don't like to discriminate against 103-year-olds. But the point is, when you delve into who the influencers are talking to and what they're talking about, you keep your finger on the pulse. You understand different changes in the landscape and different consumer preferences. Shakira, Halsey, 1.3 million likes. I mean, you can't buy that kind of endorsement or that kind of exposure. And then emerging science. Something like collagen, that was easy for us to predict. We looked at the fact that around the animal joint, there is this material that's rich in proline and glycine, amino acids that you cannot get in quantity any other place in the food chain, in the vegetable or animal kingdom. Those amino acids in high concentration directly nourish elastin. They nourish joint material. So I thought to myself, okay, the youth seeker is going to be all over it. Athletes are going to be over it. Anyone aging who doesn't want to be have stiff joints, over it, all over it. So we say, of course it's going to be a thing. So we curated, carefully selected, and started investing in this industry 4 years ago, and it is burgeoning. Pay attention to things like mushrooms. Mushrooms are difficult because, first of all, what the hell are they? They're not really people and they're not really plants. They're like their own kingdom. Everybody's worried about the nut job in North Korea. I'm worried about mushrooms. But seriously, mushrooms have this historic anecdotal reference. They're amazing. And now real science backing them up. They're a little bit tough to commercialize. Our buddies at Four Sigmatic tried hard for a lot of years with their mushroom packets. Then they added coffee and boom, $10 million in sales. So some of that is recognizing what ingredients are adjunct ingredients. You can't headline. Jim Tonkin was talking to me about launching a beverage with me, and it was going to be called Jim's Algae Surprise. And I cautioned against that, even though the stuff was spectacular, because even though people want sea and land greens in their green products, they don't want it screamed on the label. Those products are polarizing. People find the whole thing, pond scum, as a reference point. The truth is algae is incredible, mushrooms incredible, but commercializing that value is a little bit more challenging. Demographic versus psychographic. The next person who comes to one of our business meetings at our place and says, my customer is a female between the ages of 25 and 48, I'm going to punch him in the face. And here's why. I probably wouldn't do that because I'm a peaceful man, but I will scream something like, your story grows tiresome, because it does. Because the difference between a demographic and a psychographic is really clear. What you should be looking for is a type of consumer. What are those consumers' cultural preferences? I'm a 56-year-old male, and if you talk to our local Whole Foods store, I'm pretty sure I'm a contender for their number one customer in the country. We spend thousands a week at Whole Foods, thousands a week. Okay, so that's that whole thing. What type of consumer are you looking for? You want me. I'm 40 years, all in. Built a house with all sustainable, renewable, non-toxic materials. Back of the house is clean. Furniture, no flame retardants or Scotch Guard. All the products we use to clean the place, all the products we use topically. I friggin' bring in product to slather on my face from Hungary, Eminence Organic Skincare, man. I mean, we are the customer you want. Psychographic versus demographic. Identifying trends versus fads. This is an important one, guys. Because if you go back 40 years ago, let's say 30 years ago, maybe even 20, there was a high percentage of commerce that ran through the value-added channel that was a solar flare-up that was going to die down. The next big thing. I mean, when I was working in a natural food store, back in, was it 1976? It was somewhere around there. But anyways, in the late 70s somewhere, we were selling 3 units of spirulina per week. And then there was an article in Reader's Digest, and we sold 144 units a week for 6 months. And then oat bran became a thing, and we were selling oat bran water, oat bran pasta, oat bran puffs, single item identification that just took off. That's a fad. And today you're still going to see fads. People like the next shiny new object. But the difference is, and I'm anxious if anyone here can get their hands on data that would demonstrate what I'm describing here. The difference today is that a much, much higher percentage of commerce is based on real trends. Because, people are smarter, we have more information at our disposal, so we can more reliably say something like collagen. I'll say it, guys, collagen will never again not be relevant. 100% guarantee. You can't mimic those results nutritionally any other way. Of course it is. We're going to talk about some more later here that will become proverbial tipping points. Something like fat. Think about what we've done as a collective. 25 years ago, people thought fat was bad for them. I mean, nutritionists were suggesting, especially women, you drink skim milk, eat chicken breast, low-fat cottage cheese, put fat-free dressing on your salad. Well, guess what? Google the results. There was a 25-year study with 43,000 women eating that low-fat diet, and it was a nutritional disaster. I will boldly say, even though nutrition is an inexact science, you have all kinds of things that play into it, blood types, genetics, your level of health, etc. I would confidently say, unless you have some trouble metabolizing fat, a high-fat diet is healthiest for all humans. Syndicated data definitely has a foundational role. Not everybody can get their hands on it. The information is key. That's why people are scratching their heads and say, Bill, how come people keep buying bottled water? The bottles are made from plastic. And I say, well, put it in this perspective. First of all, we have a packaging issue. Nobody would doubt that. But what people don't get is that there are solutions, upgrades in packaging, especially with the emergence of hemp plastics, right? There is, but there's also got to be technology taking a bigger role, sweeping continent-sized bowls of plastic off the surface of the ocean and turning that stuff into crude fuel. I want to drive down the highway, Jeff, at 100 miles an hour. When I'm done eating my bag of grain-free chips, I want to frisbee it out the window. And then I want to drive back 4 months later and say, hey, Jeff, look, a bush grew right there. Because it was fully compostable packaging with embedded seeds. That's what I want to do. But guess why people drink bottled water? Because it is not a reliable solution to drink chlorinated, fluoridated tap water out of a portable vessel. I mean, if you're okay with dying younger than you otherwise would, I'm cool with it. But if you get your food right, you got to get your water right. Chlorine is a necessary element in a municipal water supply. Otherwise, you'd have bacterial overgrowth. But it is also a proven cancer-causing gas. Fluoride is a proven cancer-causing chemical. I drink bottled water. I'm on a well and I drink bottled water. Too many inorganics in our water to have the right kind of pH and balance, so I drink bottled water. The basics of brand selection. Okay, so when I hear investors talk, they always get up on stage and they say it's about the people. And I get it, because even in the age of emerging robotics and technology, the people in a company are always going to be the most important. We're never going to iRobot, right? It's not happening. So understanding that, though, I have a little bit of a different perspective. I say categories number one, and then product, and then people when we're looking at brands. And here's why. I have someone come to me, and they've got bananas, rice, applesauce, and toast liquefied in an aseptic container. There's just no chance. There's no category. I don't care if you have a dream team of managers that are checkered. It does not matter. And then the product. The product is really important. But Bill, my pickle juice not only has half an organic pickle, it's got 2 cloves of garlic. Okay? Kiss of death, man. We're going to sell like 14 cases this year. Okay? You got to get category right. You got to get product. You know when the people become more important? because I love creative founders who often don't have the business pedigree to build a $20 million company. The people actually become more important. Or let's put it this way. You got to know what you've got. The responsibility of the community, the investment community, the business community, is to put the right people in the right positions as these companies start to mature. Know when to put in a CMO, marketing director, VP of sales, ops director. Usually the founder of a brand is not the president or CEO at 5 years. That's why I say slow your roll when people jump and say, the people are the most important. At a certain point, that's always going to be true. But I advise you to think about the perspective here. Get to the right product, get to the right category. And when we do our product testing, we are deadly serious. I go into a zone. I block everything out. Okay? And what I focus on is first, don't lead the witness. Don't say, Bill, try this stuff. It's amazing. I call that leading the witness. Let me try it, but I need ingredients and I need nutritionals. You wouldn't compare a freshly brewed 40-gram sugar soda to a zero-sugar stevia product. So I have a product here. Let's give it a shot. I mean, I've already tried it, so this is a reenactment. Okay. So Hella, let's see. Hella bitters and soda. Dry, aromatic, no sugar. Hey, they got gentian root in here. The king of bitters. Fucking spectacular. I want to work with these guys. Guess what? I already do. Nice job, guys. Taste it before you spend your time talking to people. Everyone wants to sit down and talk with us. We don't have time. You have to go through a process to get to us. We look at it, we taste it. If we're interested, we'll call you. And let's talk now powerhouse trends, okay? CBDs. I will be so bold as to say CBDs will be $20 billion category in the US by 2025. And the only reason it won't be that big sooner is because a lot of people are sitting on the sidelines. Big retailers, investors to some extent. But it is going to be like the great gold rush too. There's going to be fortunes won and fortunes lost. But this one's easy to predict because this stuff works. It's plant medicine of the highest order. I like to point out I'm at home playing basketball. Someone lands on my foot. I hear the crunch. Oh no. Grade 2 sprain for sure, writhing in pain. My sister Jane bursts open the doors to the gym. I didn't even know she was at my house. She says, Bill, I'll get arnica. Then he'll feel better. I'm like, Jane, love you. Thank you so much. As soon as the doors close, I say, dude, look, we're going to put some arnica pain relief on it. I'm going to give you some arnica pellets. I'm going to give you some turmeric extract because it will subtly improve the healing. If you want to feel better, I'm going to prop you up on a chair, ice it, and give you a hydrocodone with a gin and tonic chaser. Then guess what? We're watching movies, okay? CBDs, on the other hand, actually work. They bring relief to people. You sprain your wrist, you put CBDs on, you feel better. Okay, you're going to do a talk, you take CBDs, you feel more relaxed and more chill. You commit to CBDs and you sleep better. I mean, there's a good argument. Just get this material in your body and it moves you towards homeostasis, towards balance. Unstoppable freight train. Look at all this stuff that it has application for. And this is kind of the order in which people are driving into this category. CBD market opportunity. You can see some people even more bullish than me. This is the Brightfield Group, and they're saying $22 billion by 2022. The only reason that won't happen is just because there's just too many people sitting on the sidelines. Too many issues to work out on a state level, but the demand is there. I will agree with that. Low, no sugar. This hit its tipping point only 5.5 years ago. I read Sugar Blues 40 years ago, and I had no idea it would take 35 years for this to happen, but it did. When it happened, it was like the aurora borealis in the sky. I'm not kidding. If you were paying attention, like one day people loved sugar and the next day they didn't. When we were building Suja, okay, the number one item was Green Supreme. We were selling 20 units per store per week at Whole Foods at $8.99 back then, right? 6 years ago. And then there was a day that came to a screeching halt in favor of the no sugar lemonades and the murky greens. Today, any brand in juice will tell you the low sugar SKUs are selling at the highest velocity. And if you can replicate an amazing drinking experience like Lemon Perfect, like Koya, Olipop, Rebel, your proposition to the consumer is well executed, bright, fresh, delicious, you really have an opportunity. I say this during a talk, and I always notice, a lot of people aren't aware, there's 4 grams of sugar in a teaspoon. So think about just a regular soda, like even a natural soda. A 12-ounce soda has 36 to 48 grams of sugar. I mean, let's round it out, man. That's over 10 teaspoons of sugar in a drink. If me and Jeff were at a cafe and I ordered a tea, by the time I was at spoonful 7, he would karate kick it out of my hand and say, Jesus, Bill, you're going to get type 2 diabetes. People don't realize how much sugar is in their product. We're never going back. It doesn't mean sugar cane farmers are going to go out of business. It's context. Someone said to me 3 years ago at my place, Bill, bummer about dried fruit. I said, what do you mean? They're like, dried fruit going out of business. I said, really? Okay. I'll predict dried fruit will grow double digits 7 years in a row, starting right now. They're like, how is it even possible? And I said, because dried fruit is a storehouse of nutrients, fiber, potassium, vitamins, minerals. It also has concentrations of sugar, but people are going to go from eating caramel and gummies to figs, dates, apricots, etc. Plus, they're so universally part of cuisine and dishes. So sure enough, I've been checking. Right now, I'll go check the data. Dried fruit, 3 years running, growing double digits. Category nuance, very important. And then ketogenic. I love a good debate. At the Bellagio bar, I start talking about religion, then I move to politics, and then I get controversial. But ketogenic, I say to people what I'm about to say, and people say, Bill, you're high. And I say, well, I am taking a lot of CBDs, but that's all I'm giving you right now. But ketogenic products, I will say to you right now, look at me and listen. Products that are keto-friendly will sell at high velocity today, 5 years, 25 years, and I guarantee it. Because the compression that people put on sugar, they're now going to move into overall carbohydrates. And I don't know if any of you guys have focused on eating ketogenic and really understanding what it is. There aren't even enough people. Like people say, Bill, people aren't really eating keto. I said, tell me about it. I mean, if you're talking 20, 30 net carbs a day, say for 300 days in 2019, I'm looking at my crystal ball and I can't decide if it's 11 or 12 people who are actually going to do that, but I'll let you know. Doesn't matter. Ketogenic is different. It's getting your body burning fat as fuel. And the greatest health enthusiasts like Dr. Axe, Dr. Mercola will tell you, you need to get comfortable transferring from burning glycogen as fuel to burning fat as fuel, and you cycle in and out of ketosis. The way I do it, because I drink every day and I love to, I control my carbohydrates by not eating dessert, not eating fruit that much, except for like citrus and berries, and I intermittent fast. I eat all my calories in a compressed 8-hour window. So I'm burning fat. Losing weight without exercise, more energy. When you burn fat, steady energy all day, mentally and physically. It's fascinating. So people are definitely going to compress their carbohydrates. So therefore, low net carb, keto-friendly products, never again not be relevant. Fact. And oh look, it's Pookie the Pomeranian, my spirit animal, looking over all of us. Thank you, everybody. Thank you. Appreciate it. Thanks, brother. Appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Let's have a seat real quick.
All right, let's do it.
Can we do it without your spirit animal?
She's in me. She's in me right here.
I can't wait for the day that Pookie meets stupid, sexy Flanders, my spirit animal.
Wow. I'm going to have a bouncer there that day.
How do you gauge not just the ability to win, but the size of the prize?
Well, I mean, a lot of that has to do with the category. We talked about that. It's very different, because even products like CBDs, if you came to me with a 40-gram sugar CBD cola, I'd be a lot less excited about scaling that than a sparkling water with CBD or something like Vibes, which has very low sugar and an amazing drinking experience. So the category dynamic is really important when you're looking at that aspect.
And yet, soda's a much bigger category than sparkling water alone. Now, water is huge, but if I could come to you with a CBD soda that had, 12 grams of sugar, would you be interested?
I'll give you my card. John Craven is watching right now. Of course I would, because that's the other thing. I'll tell you guys this. That's where category nuance. Remember what I said about dried fruit. at Presence Marketing, I expect in the next few years, someone will come to us with a craft soda that might have 15 grams of sugar, might have 18, but it's got real juice in it. It tastes amazing. That becomes the new indulgence, because your palate will adjust when you stop eating as much sugar, but there's still going to be refreshment and other categories where sugar maintains its relevance. And something like 12 grams of sugar is still tremendous compression compared to, I mean, a glass of orange juice is 25 plus grams of sugar.
Let's talk about execution for a second.
Sure.
In a rising category with multiple brands, how can I, as an entrepreneur, know what I'm doing is going to be sufficient for the win?
It's a loaded question because there are many factors. I say the first thing you got to do is get the product right. I can't tell you guys how often even when we see something that's exciting enough that we're initiating a relationship, that I say, hey, of your 6 SKUs, 4 need work. I'm going to need you to change these flavor notes based on our recommendation. People do it. So getting the product right so you have the best competitive advantage when it comes down to consumers tasting the product, I would say that is your number one. And then it's marketing, you know, it's having that understanding of the evolution of the elite consumer that can be any age, but that has cultural preferences that align with the value proposition of your product. So how do you connect with that consumer? That's the art.
So getting it right, how much room are you willing to give an entrepreneur while they work to do that?
It's not always our choice because we start working, you don't always know the whole story, and we run into a lot of messy stuff. But fortunately, we are drawn to the mess like a bug to the light. We're used to that. You know, we're battle tested, we're seasoned. So we do not mind engaging in that process. We don't need people to have everything buttoned up. That's why I say the people part, look, if I got a creative entrepreneur, we'll figure out who to plug in where as that business builds. It's kind of the same thing with strategy. You know, we might be in a category where high-low doesn't necessarily isn't the best way to go to market because of compression in the category. We need to go to everyday value price. So some of that stuff is discovered on the fly when you observe the results from the marketplace. That's why our 500 team members at Presence Marketing, you know, my heroes, fighting the good fight every day, giving that market recon on what's working and what opportunities they have.
So I just want to tie this together with what we heard earlier today from Mike Rapoli, which is, if you're working hard on the idea, and if you're executing and you know that the opportunities there, the categories there, there's room to get it right. And if you picked your partners well, they're going to help you do it. Mm-hmm. Now, you mentioned that you like to drink every day. Mm-hmm. So I think we've got the right product that's following next. We've got a expo with beer and wine, and then a cocktail party later. I hope you don't compress your alcohol consumption to an hour, because apparently we've got like 9 hours of it coming. So everyone,
I'm trained.
Thank you so much for sharing this first day with us. We look forward to seeing you.
Nice job. Way to go, man.